Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of King Dolphin Television. I am Raymond. I am the author of the Dolphin Wars trilogy of books and ruler of the greatest pod on YouTube. I'd like to welcome you all to this exciting episode of Fantastic Four Reviews. And we tonight will be going into 1965, and we will have issues 34 and 35 tonight of Fantastic Four. But before we get going, Legatus, give me a hand here. If you like what happens on King Dolphin Television, if you love these reviews of Fantastic Four, if you'd like to check out any other comic book reviews, if you like Just Cuz, if you like all the special episodes we do, and especially if you love the interviews, please do as Legatus Legionii says, like, subscribe, engage, chat, like some more, do the notification. And also, if you are so inclined, okay, here he goes. The Goddess Legionii says, like, share, sub, chat. Yes, please chat, comment, engage, enjoy, return for donate. Enjoy, donate, return for more, and stay for the fun. And yes, we have fun on these shows. And if you are so inclined to help out the channel, please follow what FKHC says. Make sure Dr. Raymond Bohm doesn't send Snorty and Trike to collect his money. Pay in super chats, super stickers, or the tip link here. And Snortopoopas is doing a pounding on Stream Element to get the tip link up. Let me see if I can do it. Let's see. Because he smacks Stream Who's It on the noggin. Yeah. They're 34 and 35. Legatus. Looks like it's not working for me either. Phooey. Well. Okay. All right. We shall welcome anybody who's here right now with shout outs. Currently, we don't have any guests, but we have our producers, Sandra, King Dolphin TV in color, stereo were available. We have Trike wandering around, being the dog. We've got FKHC 2005. We have the great Legatus Legionii. We've got Snortopoopa. Whoa. Hold on. I almost jumped the gun. We got the biggest, baddest bear on the internet. The one, the only. Snortopoopas! Q-bar. Dot clobber. Hashtag time. There's Snort, and there's the dolphin flaming on in the background. All right. And hello, Kels Kissed. How you doing? Welcome. So we have Kels Kissed here. All right. So, okay. All right. So that is right now. And Legatus has already put out what these episodes are going to be. She's billionaire Gregory Gideon bets his bid for world domination on his ability to destroy the Fantastic Four. And Diablo takes control of Dragon Man and wreaks havoc on the Empire State campus. All right. So, to Kel's Kissed says she's excited to see what these reviews are all about. Okay, what we do is in the late 90s, when the Fantastic Four hit their 44th year, they came out with a really cool, let me see if I can bring it up here, a really cool CD set called 44 Years of the Fantastic Four. And I'm going to show you the cool. Let me give it this. Let's see. That's not working. Visual. Give it a green screen. None. Okay. So I got this. 44 years of the Fantastic Four. So it's every issue of the Fantastic Four from number 1 all the way 44 years later. And I love this back cover from George Perez of the Fantastic Four and all the characters that have been in the mythos. So yes, it's a awesome thing, and that's what I get the issues from. These were you'll see, they're actually scanned from way back in the day. And we'll go over them. And I'm going to set up a poll. Let's set up a poll. Okay, let's see. Don't want to. Okay. There's the poll. And okay. All right, so I'm setting up a poll. And there we go. Okay, so without further ado, let us get started. And the good thing about these is they include all the original ads from back in the day, and I kind of make fun of them. Okay. And here we go. Here we go. And please feel free to comment at any time. We'll stop to read them when we get to ads. All right, here we go. Issue 34 of the Fantastic Four. It is friend against friend, brother against sister. And if you always thought it would never happen, you can't afford to miss a house divided. Can you guess what makes Gideon the most powerful foe of all? Well, we shall find out. All right. Okay. All right. Have the fabulous Fantastic Four really met their first defeat, a house divided. Rapturously written by Stan Lee, deliciously drawn by Jack Kirby, impeccably inked by Chick Stone, and lavishly lettered by Artie Simek. And there is the tip link. Okay, but look at that ad. You could get back in the day a powerful 2-band AM shortwave radio licensed by RCA for the low price of $19.95. Okay, so this is introducing the fascinating villainy of Mr. Gideon. Can the FF win their most difficult battle? A battle among themselves. So, a package goes to the Thing, and it's addressed from the Yancey Street Gang, the bane of Ben's existence. So, he's got a package. It's mysterious. And then he says, if those commie Yancey yahoos think they'll get me mad, they got holes in your head. I won't even open it. I won't look at it. I won't go near it. And Sue's asking if they're going to make up with them. And there was nothing in there. And Ben wants Sue to take it out. And Reed's saying, Benjamin, you're the only fella I know who can blow hot and cold at the same time. And Alicia, the Thing's girlfriend, says the Yancey Street Gang always makes poor Ben see red. And look at Johnny just smirking over there. And what it is a Beetle wig. One of the Beetle wigs. And Ben wonders what he's going to do with it. And Johnny says, wear it backwards, let it cover his face. It'll be an improvement. And then Ben is grabbing Johnny and getting ready to pound him. Reed is trying to referee. And Johnny saying, this big clown doesn't scare me. So he flames on. And Ben says, you animated matchstick, you almost burned my clobbering hands. Reed is still trying to referee. And Ben says, let me snuff him out in the nearest ashtray just once. And Reed covers him. And Reed says, you heard me, Ben. I said, knock it off. And I wasn't referring to Johnny's head. Johnny leaves for auto show. And he says, don't tell Ben I didn't mean it when I said the wig could be an improvement. Nothing could improve that Pam. And Ben is still out to get him. So, and Sue is chastising Ben, saying that Johnny and he are supposed to be pals. Ben says, I wouldn't let anyone try to knock his forward block off, would I? Reed says, I think we understand your horseplay, Ben, but I think you had Alicia worried for a minute. And Alicia says she understands Ben's temper tantrums. And Ben says, I'm the sweetest, most lovable guy on the team. And I'll pulverize any meathead who says I ain't. And he's over there grousing about the Yancey Street Gang. And he's saying, imagine those creeps sending me a Beetle wig. Alicia says, throw it away. But then Ben tries it. And he says he likes it. He says, wish you could see me, baby. I'm a living doll. So next we move to the office of the world's richest man in downtown Wall Street. He's canceling his appointments and wanting his observers. Highlighted comment. All right. I don't know what legatus means. So let's move on. All right. And now we are at the office of Gregory Hungerford Gideon. He's a multi-billionaire wizard, soon to become the most dangerous adversaries the Fantastic Four faced, because he has unlimited wealth. He is. Hold on a second. Let's see something. Okay, so he is talking to a bank and not going to lend them money. You've got guards taking money to the mint, and other people saying that Gideon is out to conquer the planet. And now he has thrown everybody to the office. He is talking to various people around the world. Someone from South Africa, someone from Cairo who was almost ruined by a company Gideon set up and wanting to beat. And then a guy named Faversham in London. And he's saying, why have you got everybody together? Are you going to gloat because he's gaining control of their empires? Now Gideon is going to tell them. But now we've got our first commercial break. We've got more triumphs from Marvel. The Amazing Spider-Man, where he's taking on the Scorpion. We've got Captain America and Bucky guest starring with the Howling Commandos and Thor. Who's Thor taking on? He's taking on someone, but I can't really tell. All right, so those are going on. Okay. I am not sure what you mean by highlighted comment, Legatus. Okay, and there's a woof for Trike. All right. So let's go on to the next installments. Oh, you can be an auto mechanic. Easy way to train for at home in spare time. Earn more, work steady, live better. Trike. You get all these tools, and how much do they say? You can own a repair shop. Go to Commercial Trades Institute. It doesn't tell you how much it is. Probably you get a free booklet, and then they tell you how much it is. All right. Okay, he's saying it's going to take 3 more years to put them all out of business and rule the world financially. He is impatient. He says, that is too slow. I haven't the patience to wait. I want to own everything, and I want it now. Someone's calling him a madman. He says, call me what you will. I have a challenge for you. Set me a task. Any task you consider impossible. He will accomplish it in 1 week if you sell out to me now. If I fail, I'll give up my plan for world domination. And now they give him a task. They say, you will defeat the Fantastic Four in 1 week. And he says he's going to do it. And he said, this is what I like a fight. I've never lost yet. With my wealth, I can do anything. And calls in his board. So at the Baxter building, as Reed gets out of bed, he hears someone dismantling. He says, what's that racket downstairs? It sounds like someone is dismantling our equipment. And he goes down to the hangar deck, and he sees people taking apart the Fantastic Four, taking apart their missile. And he asks what's going on. And someone is saying, we have our orders. Better stay back. So they are taking apart the equipment and taking away the pogo plane. So Reed asks, what's going on? And they say, now, Mr. Richards, it's all perfectly legal. Mr. Bent Grimm ordered us to take his share of the equipment. And Reed says Ben would not. Reed would not. But then sees the signature, and it is Ben. And Reed saying, these belong to all of us, to the team. He's got no right. Where is he? And Ben comes in saying he's thinking that it's a scroll. And the police is trying to restrain him, but he's going after a scroll, or who he thinks is a scroll. And Reed says, don't try to act innocent with me, wise guy. The jig's up. So just tell me what you did to the real Reed Richards before I turn you into a dehydrated glob of silly putty. The cops showed him how they found the spaceship last night with instructions of impersonating Reed. Reed is saying Reed is trying to get him to understand that he's the real Mr. Fantastic, and Ben doesn't believe him. He thinks he says, sure, and I'm Thor without my golden curls. So the police are trying to hold Reed and going to get reinforcements. And Ben is trying to beat up Reed. And Reed's saying, fingerprint him. But Ben says, that's not going to prove anything. Now they do take fingerprints, and they match. They match the scroll. And Ben is saying, Ben is asking the person who he thinks is the Skrull, and Reed is saying, my prints match the skulls because they impersonate somebody completely, even to the heartbeat. And they are brawling, Ben and Reed. Reed is saying, realizing he is the victim of one of the most ingeniously diabolical frame-ups of all time, Mr. Fantastic utilizes the full power of his pliable body into a sudden snap. And he snaps and knocks everybody away. So he can try and figure out what's going on here. All right, next. And then Sue gets to their home in the suburbs, and the place is trashed. And Sue sees a note saying, "Am fighting Dr. Doom, can't hold out any longer. Beware, sis, Doom's robot." And Johnny shows up, and Sue immediately thinks that Johnny is the robot. And Sue is saying, "I won't let you leave until you tell me where my brother is." And Johnny thinks that I don't like this. The last time I heard Sue talk this way, she was in the power of the puppet master. Better be on guard. Johnny flames on and tries to blast Sue, and she uses her force field to protect, thinking, why would a robot have the power of Johnny? And Sue knocks him out of the house with her force field. And now we are at, you too can be a successful comic artist at home in your spare time at low cost. Let's see. How much is it? The cost of each lesson is only $5. Enclosed is $5 in full payment to learn how to be a comic artist. And then there are the stamps. It's all about stamps. And now Let's see. Any other comments yet? No. All right. No more comments. Cal's Kiss says, yeah, what a deal. Yeah. And then Sue drops the force field, but she's invisible. Sue's going to go to Reed. But Johnny sees the impression she leaves on the grass and is going to follow her. And now we're back to Gregory Gideon. Wow. The assistant says, your plan's going well so far. The FF are beginning to fight among themselves and shouldn't take longer. And Gideon says, the greatest strategy of all, divide and conquer, and I paid $1 million for this. And they show the phony spaceship with the instructions that Reed Richards is a Skrull. But Gideon says, I don't want to know the details. They're for lesser men. And then someone shows up. Mrs. Gideon. And he dismisses the assistant. And of course, he's going to be a psychopath. He says, have I told you never to interrupt me when I'm talking business? When will you learn to know your place? And she's over there saying, she was glad to see him home. I'm sorry, Gideon. I didn't think. I was so glad to see you home. You're home so rarely, and I get so lonely. And then his son come home, Thomas. He says, what is it you're holding? It's a magazine, Dad. I was reading it when I heard your car enter the driveway. And saying, if only you could be home more often like other fathers. Look at that outfit she's got on. Wooba, wooba. I mean, for a nice and snazzy for being at home. If only you could be here more often like other fathers. Sometimes Mommy and I miss you so much. And he says arrogantly, I know, son, but I'm not like other men. Someday you'll realize it when I give you the entire planet for a plaything. But I don't want another planet. I just want you. And he wants to change the subject and asks about the magazine he's reading. And it's the Fantastic Four. They're my favorite heroes. And he thinks, not for long. So Reed turns into a ball and escapes from the Baxter building. And Reed turns into a parachute. And, of course, Ben probably does something like jumps out of the building. He said, I'm not a blame parakeet, but he wanted to try something. And he bounces from wall to wall, going down to break his fall. But look at all the damage he's causing. Nice chunks of block and stuff. And Sue's in a taxi, driving away from Johnny, thinking he's still a robot. And she turns invisible and gets out of the taxi and scares the driver out at the taxi and gives her money. So Sue runs to the Baxter building and sees Ben and Reed fighting. And she says, boy, stop. Listen to me. I need your help. Don't you hear me? Ben is saying, I got my hands full, if you know what I mean. And Reed tells Sue to stay invisible because we're probably all in danger. And then she decides to put a force field around Ben to keep him from throwing a piece of debris at Reed. And there's an editor's note. It says, in order to transfer her invisible force field elsewhere, Sue herself must become visible. And Ben is wondering what's going on. And here comes the torch. So it is madness now. Madness. Johnny says, I wasn't going to hit her. I just want her to stay put long enough to tell me why she thinks I'm not the torch. And Sue says he's not the torch. He's one of Doom's robots. And Reed is now starting to realize what's happening. Ben calls me a Skrull. You say that Johnny is actually a robot. Are we all cracking up? And now Reed starts trying to figure this out. And one of Gideon's goons, he says, so far, Gideon's plan is leather perfect. Now I'll just lay this concussion gun where it'll be found. And Sue's saying Ben told Johnny to attack him. And Ben's saying to get him. And Reed grabs the concussion gun. And then Reed decides to grab the gun that just happened to just be right there so he could reach it. And he hopes that it will force them back. He says, whatever this weapon is, I hope perhaps it'll make him stop. I need time to think to puzzle this out. Sue's just saying, Johnny and Ben teamed up fighting them. And he fires something and it blasts all four of them and knocks them out. And Gideon witnesses the scene according to cameras, and they say, you beat him. And Gideon is telling them to shut up. They're merely stunned. They will rise to fight again. My victory must be complete, decisive. I must render them totally helpless. Set the stage for Plan 4. The matter will be ended right now at their headquarters. I will defeat them the hardest way. And then he's saying, I'll show Van Vroot, Timroff, and Fabersham that my money can achieve anything for me. No task is beyond my power. And he says the Fantastic Four must be defeated by nightfall, but then his son, Thomas, has heard it and saying, trying to destroy the Fantastic Four. He can't. Not them. So now, let's go to the next ads. There's good old Grit for 5-cent profit. And then, zoom, this book makes you the Daredevil king of road racing set. Send for this HO scale layout handbook. So you can build your own scale racing track for 25 cents. Wow. And Kelskis says, what a deal. And then she says, what a gorgeous ground for the house. I'd love to see what she would wear out for the night. Yeah, that is a little too fancy for the for lounging around the house. And look at Thomas. He's in a tie at his house. Really? Okay. He says, this plan's cost me $1 million, but the money is nothing. I can earn that in a day. Once I've won, I'll take over the 3 remaining financial empires on Earth. I'll control the entire planet. The world will be mine. Do you hear? Mine. And Thomas is just saying that nothing should happen to the Fantastic Four. And no one can destroy him, not even his father. And now he's saying, why do I Call him that. He's my father in name only. He doesn't care for me or my mother. All he wants is power, and he'll never have enough to satisfy him. And he sees Thomas. Thomas runs. And he's wondering how much he overheard. And she comes out in a much more laid-back outfit, and she's asking, why did Tom run away? She says, we'll discuss it later. She's saying, but it's always later. Why have we become strangers? What happened to the Gregory Gideon I loved, the man I married? And he says, I have a more pressing problem to attend to. And then is that our son? Have you placed him in danger? So now Reed recovers and takes Sue to their headquarters. And Ben and Johnny recover and are going to chase Reed and Sue. Wake up, that blasted Skrull is running off with Sue. We'll catch up with him. Anyway, he's in for a surprise. Sue is under Puppet Master's control now. And Sue's asking, why are Johnny and Ben fighting us? What have we done? And I love Reed's go-kart setup. That is so cool. He's going like a go-kart. So Sue's asking what they've done, and Reed's saying there's more to this than meets the eye. Some planners spend a fortune to convince them I'm a Skrull, and she's taking orders with the Puppet Master. And then Johnny tries to flame out, but he can't and gets dizzy and faints. He says, I didn't know you were so bush, little buddy. Benjamin will carry the ball from now on. Just take it easy. And then there are strangers in their headquarters doing some things. And one puts a camouflage carpet, and that the plan is 2 minutes away from activation. And what it is a time displacer modeled after Dr. Noom's time machine. And it cost him only $30 million, over $30 million. Boy, what a security. Reed's got to work on the security layout of the Baxter building. I mean, if a group of corporate agents can get into the Baxter building, they got to work on their security. Now, granted, their security is themselves, but they still. What if they're not there? As we see, and they say it's his way of defeating the FF without injuring them. Once they set foot on the flooring, they'll be transported into the past, trapped forever. And they are gloating over Gideon's plan. And then at the estate, he's ready to do it over the phone. His wife is asking about Thomas. Where has he gone? And he's telling his wife, I'll worry about that after the last bit of business is complete. After all, it won't be difficult for a man who controls all the wealth of the earth to find one teenage boy. She says, All the wealth of the earth? You mean with all the money you have, you want more? Why? And he says, because it is the only victory I haven't yet won. It is the supreme achievement any human can attain. I must be the one to attain it. She says, newspapers, reporters, even the street people are saying you're drunk with power. And he's saying, I don't care. I can buy or sell any of them. I control their destinies. My wealth can accomplish anything. And then a Rolls Royce heads toward the Fantastic Four building with Thomas. And we got some more stamps, magic tricks, song ideas. Delivering the National Observer. Gotta love these ads. Okay. And coins. Wow, you can get a 1804 Liberty coin for $11,750. And this is in 1965. Could you imagine what it is now? Okay, model rockets. For $2.98, you can see anything on television in color. In color. A jet engine burns gas. You can have a He-Man voice. All these ads, they were cool back in the day. And then as they reach the back of the building, the boy gets there and tells them not to go in. And then to add to the mayhem, Johnny and Ben come. And Thomas says, the thing, maybe you'll believe me, you got to stop him. And Johnny's back to having his fling. And Reed is trying to stretch to the Baxter building. And Thomas is trying to warn him it's a trap, that they shouldn't catch him. Ben is ignoring the kid. And then he tries. He says, Dad owns the building. They'll let me up if they recognize me. I didn't know he owned the Baxter building. He goes up. And then they're ready to do the controls. And once he gets there, all of a sudden, Thomas gets caught in the time effect, but then Ben goes and saves him. He says, did I hear someone yell help? And he goes with, and they're being sent to the past. Reed grabs the agents, saying, take your hands off the machine. And Reed's over there wondering how they got past the alarms, and he's trying to shut it off. Sue is throwing a force field to protect Reed from the gun. And Johnny melts the gun, saying, where's the real Reed Richards? And he uses his flame balls to drive him off. They run away, and Gideon comes in. And Gideon says, I'll pay you anything to get my son back. There must be a way. They must find a way. And Reed has finally figured it out that it was Gideon, because he could afford it. And then he says nothing matters if he's lost his boy. And Reed finally figures it out that they tried to trap him in the time machine, but the son stumbled on it, and Reed figures he controlled the electric company and turned off the alarms so that the men can go in. And then suddenly, Ben and Thomas show up. And Ben says Reed turned off the power, and when he did, they tossed back to the present by an accidental recoil. And Gideon is saying, "My boy, you're safe." And his wife told Johnny and Ben the trap. So now the consequences. Now he said, "I was too blind to see that I already had the whole world. I had my son, my wife, the only two things that mattered. But greed made him want everything." And then, of course, as Ben saying, "We're going to cry." And she says, "He's done wrong, must be punished. I am still his wife. Whatever, I will not desert him. I will always be Mrs. Gregory H. Gideon." And Reed says, no one's been injured except your husband, and they can repair. With his money, he can repair the damage. He's renouncing his fortune, abdicating his empire. He's going to give it to charity, and thanking the Fantastic Four for opening his eyes. And he's going to make amends. Ben's going to give him the Beta wig, and then they leave to meet the police. And Ben wanted to clobber the guy, so he kicked the device, and now he's got a sprained toe. They say, "Take care, Benji. We're going out to celebrate that everything's back to normal." And they're saying, "Too bad you can't join me, but okay. But if you tell anyone that I couldn't go because I strained my pinky toe, I'll mop up the place with you." And there is the end of the story with Mr. Gideon trying to destroy the Fantastic Four. And the final ads: order by mail specials, 1,001 things that you can get free, and the old Hypno coin. Snort, I bet you can hypnotize someone to give you a bunch of seals. Okay. And let's see. Strange Tales with the Torch and the Thing fighting the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. You got Doctor Strange. You got the Avengers fighting Spider-Man. And you got Giant Man fighting the Hulk and Iron Man. So that is the end of issue 24. Oh, I love this poster. A Marvel Masterwork. A Marvel Masterwork pinup. Yancey Street. The Fantastic Four go home. And Ben saying, "This is embarrassing." Hello, Phantom Outsider. How you doing? He says, "Hail, chat. So Ben hurt his karate pinky toe." Yep. And there's Yubiwaza. So you can learn how to do Yubiwaza. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that fighting technique. And you can set up a radio TV electronics by practicing at home. So that is issue 31. And again, welcome to Phantom Outsider. And Hale Chancellor Bent hurt his karate pinky toe. All right. Okay, so now we go to episode 35. Okay, let's get rid of the banner. All right, episode 35. Wow, have we got a treat for you? Calamity on the campus. Enough said. Yep, 35. And there's the ads are probably going to be the same. So we'll just get into it. The Fabulous Fantastic Four run into calamity on the campus. Introducing the sinister surprise of the year, Dragon Man. Plus a great guest villain from out of the perilous past. And now you've got the Fantastic Car landing at State University, where Reed Richards is going to be doing a lecture. He brings his fellow FF members with them. Sue thinks it's a very lovely place. Sue says, I thought I got that one. Sue thinks it's lovely. Ben is remembering his football career. Johnny's thinking he needs to stay awake, and of course some people saying, I want to see Sue Storm before she turns invisible. So they're getting ready to go. So adequate script, Stanley. Satisfactory art, Jack Kirby. Passable inking, Chick Stone. Sufficient lettering, Artie Simic. All right, so they land and they're getting ready to get ready to get going. Phantom Outsider says, now Diablo gets teamed up with Dragon Man, which makes him a better villain. Dragon Man is innocent and Diablo is evil, and using Dragon Man as muscle. All right, so here we go. And of course, the Fantastic Four are swamped by their friends. And Ben's giving luggage to a student. Reed's signing autographs of ladies. They'd say, if it's all the same to you, we'd rather crowd around. And Sue is saying, so many charming boys. Don't you have girls here at State University? And they're oogling on Sue. And saying the kids are mooning over Richards. And Johnny's saying, I guess a high school kid is like nowhere with them. And the dean and is welcoming them. And he's saying, it's an honor, my boy. We on the faculty know how busy you all are. And Reed says, never too busy to visit an old friend. Ben and I have spoken of you often. So they start seeing him around. And Ben's saying, don't give me a speech. He was going to run. And they saying that the students consider it a triumph to be in the same dorm where Reed and Ben shared years ago. And Johnny's saying, yeah, Reed and Ben must have really been BMOC around here. And BMOC is big man on campus. So they are. So as they leave, as they go to the lecture hall, he sees none other than Professor Xavier. And he had some matters to attend to and wanted to thank him to interview the students. Reed says, I've heard of Professor Xavier. He runs some sort of private school in Westchester. Johnny is looking up at the gals. And Xavier says, how surprised Richard would be to know I can read his every thought. And asking the dean, says to visit his school one day. And they are heading out. The guy in the back saying, too bad our trip was in vain. Those we tested were not true mutants. And Reed says, Professor Xavier is reputed to be one of our most brilliant scientists, yet I never see any published accounts of his finding. Ben says maybe he's ain't a nut for publicity like some rubber-skinned guys I know. Then the dean says he specializes in training gifted youngsters. And then Johnny yells and says, look, what's going on in here? They go in and they see it's a model. And the dean has told Gilbert that he can't do experiments until the semester's ended. And he was so close to completing the experiment, but too impatient. Reed asks, what's the nature? And he says, I'm a biologist specializing in superpowered humans. I'm constructing a creature more powerful than anything that lives, including the Fantastic Four, for the purpose of research and analysis. Reed is saying there's a strange aura of menace about that creature, as if it's waiting for life. And Ben says, last time I heard a speech like that, Vincent Price was making it. And now we go to Transylvania. Two people, Hans and Wolfgang, hear an explosion at the slag heap. And Hans, come quick. Something is happening. I heard an explosion in the slag heap yonder. And Hans says, impossible, Wolfgang. We are alone in these woods. But I'll go and look with you. And then, see, I was right. Something is rising from below. And Hans says, you know what place this is? You know what we've stumbled onto? And then the rock explodes. And they ask what was powerful enough to cause it. And Wolfgang says, it will be worth our lives if we're discovered. And then Diablo returns. He says, I'm free again. After all these months, my potions and herbs release me from captivity. And so now he's saying he was imprisoned with their powers, and he teleports with a pellet. So he's going to America to find the Fantastic Four. And we've got an advertisement from the Merry Marvel Marching Society, where you can join their fan club. You can get membership buttons, stickers, a membership card, and a certificate. All for $5, including a 33rd and a 3 and a third RPM record with the voices of the bullpen gang. You too can get it. Now, of course, you notice that you've got to cut it out here. You've got to cut out the little application, but don't they realize that you cut that? You've probably ruined the comic book forever, especially since on the other side, okay, is the coins. Okay, you could do it because of the ads, but still, do you really want to ruin a book from 1965? Nah. All right, before we continue. All right, Phantom Outsider says, sure, and no one admires alumni Dr. Doom, who after graduation took over a small country. Like, that's so easy to do. It's an android, not a model. Gilbert has not gotten it working yet. All right. So now let's continue. So, Ben is looking for Reed and runs into Gilbert. And he's saying, go away, I'm busy. Ben lifts up the rock. And he says, you can use help with the paperweight. Where do you want it? Careful! It's a fragment which fell from outer space. It's virtually priceless. And he's going to reduce it to its basic atomic structure to discover the basic life force, which is hidden within. And Ben says, knock it off. I get enough of this talk from Rubberhead. Is it contagious? And Ben walks out. As Johnny's still wishing he got even a smile. And runs into Ben. He says, hundreds of gals in this place. I gotta bump into you. And now there they go. Arguing again. Look, small fry. Didn't Reed tell you to behave like a gentleman here if it kills you? Why don't you imitate me so that you amount to something someday? Imitate you? We've got to get you to a doctor, Big Mouth. You just lost all your marbles. Oh, and they're getting ready. And he says, let's find Reed. And they're wandering the castle or the university. And he looks at a mixed up half pint, saying, I'll bet he's waiting for someone to take his little handy and lead him out of here. And Johnny's saying, that's Peter Parker, the guy that Doris tried to get friendly with, so I put the kibosh on him. Related in Spider-Man 21. And Peter says, there's the thing in that swell-headed torch. Maybe they won't notice me. Come on, Parker. Do you really think your luck's going to run out? Ben is asking Parker, where's Reed? Did you see a tall drink of water who looks like his idea would be of a lot of fun would be get shipwrecked on a desert island with a slide rule? Johnny says, is he going to enroll at State U when he finishes high school? And is thinking he's better stay out of the way. And Parker says he noticed him at the football field giving a demonstration. Johnny is saying, by the way, Parker, what are you doing here? I'm not giving autographs away. And Johnny and Pete says, you wouldn't pay me to take one of those of yours. I came about seeing about enrolling for next year, but if you're going to be here, forget it. And Ben's saying, I'm the only one who could talk to Torch like that. Johnny says, relax. It makes him feel like a big man because he knows I wouldn't fight a nobody like him. And Pete says, you're going to find out who this nobody is and you'll know it. What a start of a beautiful friendship. They don't like each other right now, but what a start. Spoiler alert, they become the best of friends. And Reed is playing football with the team. He's catching a football by stretching. And they said, man, if we ever can have an end like Mr. Fantastic, we wouldn't need the other 10 men. And Reed goes to Ben. Benjamin, I've been waiting for you. Come on, boys. Show them this. Show them their razzmatazz. And Ben says, I'm here you're talking. Just make them big, strong heroes. Promise they won't get too rough with delicate little me. And they're going to all try and tackle him. And they scrum over him, and he lifts up the team. But then Sue decides to get into the act. So she puts an invisible wall in front of Ben, and he bounces off. Reed is saying, Ben is saying, who's the wise guy? Who's the wise guy? And Johnny is making fun of him. And Sue decides she's going to turn invisible until Ben gets calmed down. He's thinking that the force field is what threw him. And then she notices a familiar person in a car. All right. And so Sue is following Diablo. And Diablo's looking at a building. And then Sue almost gets run over by a car. But then by the time she got to Diablo's car, he's vanished. So she turns visible and wonders why she's becoming more careless. And Diablo meets with Professor Gilbert and introduces himself and said he's learned of the lifeless creature and the powers it would possess if it lived. And he is going to give him a pellet. All right, so we're at ads. Let's see what Phantom Outsider says. Spoiler, at one point Peter dates Torch's girl Doris. Torch harasses Peter until Spider-Man shows up to teach the Torch not to bully helpless kids. Bad, Torch, bad. Hey, it's the start of a spoiler alert. It's the start of a beautiful friendship. They will be frenemies. And then, spoiler alert again, Johnny does the ultimate prank and gives Peter his spot on the team. So Yeah, that's a prank. Snort says, Snuffles. All right. So, here we go. It's a potion of my own creation. It has the power to give life to an inanimate object. Kel's Kiss says, the hypnocoin is so cool. Yeah. Helps hypnotize. New pocket-sized invention helps hypnotize in minutes. For $1. It must work for you or money back. All right. He has a potion of his own creation, has the power to give life to an inanimate object. And Gilbert thinks he's crazy. So he pulls off the blanket, and there is Dragon Man. Combines the greatest powers I could give an artificial creation, mighty tail, built-in heat reactors which emit flame, wings that, and Diablo says he will serve my purposes. So now he's telling Gilbert to obey his orders. Reed starts his lecture. And it's a capacity crowd. And so he starts. Ben is over there thinking, as my dear old Aunt Petunia used to say, the only worst thing than speeches is more speeches. So Ben walks around the campus, and somebody is emanating energy. And energies from the potions are giving life to Dragon Man. And Diablo is working on some more potions. And then Ben breaks in. Before the dreaded archvillain can utter another word, 500 pounds of savage, orange-skinned fighting fury come hurtling toward him. So he recognizes Diablo. And all of a sudden, he orders Dragon Man to grab Ben as it came to life. And he says, it's alive. It's alive. And Diablo says, my potions are infallible. I can do anything. So Ben starts brawling with Diablo. So Ben starts fighting Dragon Man. And he says, what gives? When I clobber someone, he's supposed to stay clobbered. And Diablo's bragging because Dragon Man is so powerful. And he tosses thing out the window. And the scientist says, I created him for study, for research, not for this. How can we control him now? What damage will he do? Only what I order him to do. As long as my potion gives him life, my will is his will. And Ben is tossed out of there for this. I came to college and saying, where are my other patent partners when I need them most? Boy, you can never find a superhero when you need one. Breaks into a tree, and then Dragon Man comes out, and Diablo says, find and destroy the Fantastic Four. Dragon Man flies. And next thing you know, he flies over the lecture. They say, look at that. It must be something Richards dreamed up to impress us. No, he's real. And then the dean realized that was Gilbert's model. Reed says there's only one person who might have accomplished it, but 3,000 imprisoned. Sue says, Reed, he's the one I saw, Diablo. And then Johnny flames on and starts going after Dragon Man. And then Johnny flies around Dragon Man. Good old Reed. Even if he's nothing to worry about, he'll be worried about why he's not worried. So he puts up a flaming fence, and Dragon Man shoots out the flame, and Johnny absorbs it, so it doesn't injure anybody. But now he is overheated, and then he goes out. He flies away, goes out into the upper atmosphere, and releases the heat. So he's out of the fight. All right. Okay. So Phantom says, so Diablo invented Viagra, LOL. So if Diablo created Diablo, the only reason he never retired, even though he'd be rich, is he just loves doing evil. And then Phantom Outsider again says, good thing Dragon Man doesn't eat. Imagine how worse he'd be than pigeons. Oh, Fanty. That's good. All right, anybody else? Okay. And Dragon Man is flying around the campus. Sue is saying he's flying over the crowd as if he's searching for something. Reed is saying the target is us. So he's going to grab a piece of stone and stretching around with the rock and trying to divert his attention from the innocents. He wraps up Dragon Man and says, Sue, wrap your force field around the wings. And Sue uses the force field. She's saying his body is so stretched out, he could be seriously injured if Dragon Man exerts enough pressure. So she puts it out, not going to fail him. And he's grabbed, and now Reed tries to work out a plan. And Reed is wondering where the thing is. And it fell to the earth, and Sue thinks that it whimpered like a child, and wondered how did he do it? How did he breathe life into a lifeless creature? And Reed is saying nothing's totally lifeless. Wood, stones, all contain the very earth itself, all contain living atoms that must have responded to the potions. And hello, Wallace Lang. How are you? Okay. I see YouTube is still going with the silly names. So Dragon Man is dazed, and he reads warning Sue to stay away. Sue's going to try something. Ben comes over, and she says, everything that lives is responsive to kindness and sympathy. And remembering the wolves that cared for Romulus and Remus, and King Kong's gentleness toward a helpless girl. So she pets She pets Dragon Man. Dragon Man strokes her hair. Kind of interesting. Reed says, take it easy. Ben is thinking, who'd believe that? And then all of a sudden, gas hits the three. And then the three of them are unconscious, and they're starting to get their body temperatures start to get below the freezing point. But then Johnny appears, and he starts flying around them, using his heat to counteract the effects of the potion. And they reviving the team. And they disappear. And Diablo and Dragon Man must have thought we were finished. Sue says we got to find them. And Ben says, we'll find them. You can't hide them. And Reed says, let's find Gilbert to help us, to talk to us about the creature. Maybe they can defeat him. Sue says, he was built to be stronger than Ben, fly and use flames like Johnny, and he's got Diablo's brain behind him. He's more powerful than we. It'll be the fight of our lives. And Sue says, never stopped us before. And the kids show that Dragon Man just flew past them. So they get going. All right, back to stamps. All right, so Wallace Lang is here. Phantom Outsider says the human heat lamp. And let's see. Phantom Outsider says, well, polar bears can't poo and fly at the same time. It's a safety feature, right, Snort? And I'm sure we're going to get a snuffle. And if only the FF had communicators so they could call each other. Yeah, if only. All right. All right. So, and they're over by a lake, and Gilbert is saying, undo this. And Diablo's saying, no one dictates to Diablo. I will decide his fate in my own time. Gilbert is saying when I constructed him of pliable, inanimate materials, I never dreamed the end result would be this. He was never meant to live. He mustn't live. And Diablo is monologuing with one such creature under my control, one titan capable of crushing any foe. Think of the power. So now the Human Torch appears and throws a fireball. And he is reaching for a potion and draws the oxygen from the torch. And he's going to use another one. And then Ben throws a tree at Diablo. And then he's going to use the freeze potion again. So he's getting ready to do it. Reed's trying to stretch. Sue's trying to use her force field. Ben's going to bop him. But next thing you know, a tail whaps him and causes the potion to turn into ice. And he is on the middle of the ice. Dragon Man is chasing Diablo. because Diablo lost control. And he is chasing Diablo, and before he can release the vial, Dragon Man leaps upon him. They both go into the water. And Ben goes into the lake, and he's caught in a whirlpool. And there are caves under there which draw currents everywhere. And he's saying there's all kinds of nutty caves down here creating suctions, drawing the currents in all different directions. But Reed grabs him and brings him back. And they've disappeared. And Reed is saying, even if Diablo managed to escape, which is a frightening thought, we must hope that the Dragon Man no longer under his control is lost forever. Sue's kind of sad about that. And Gilbert says, as long as I live, I'll keep the vigil. It was I who created him, and should he ever appear again, I'll destroy him. And Reed is telling him it was all Diablo's fault. Okay, so, and they're getting ready to leave. They're saying, when you give a lecture, you don't kid around. And evidently Jane Mansfield was there to lecture on philosophy. And the dean's asking him to apply to the state, and Johnny just wants to get a nap. Ben's grousing about being the pack mule. And Ben's asking, where's Sue and Egghead? Where they skipped off to? Last I saw, they were walking down memory lane toward the sweetheart tree. Memory lane? The sweetheart tree? Sonny, I think you flipped your cork. The torch is right, Mr. Green. We have a quiet lover lane here like all colleges do. I guess your two partners have just discovered it. And Ben saying, what a revolting development. So, Reed tells Sue, dear, I want to tell you about an old campus tradition I still remember from my days at State. Sue saying, I'd love to learn of it. Reed, see that tree cut in the shape of a heart? Oh, yes, darling, it's lovely. Well, according to tradition, any couple who hold hands and kiss while standing before it will marry within a year. And Sue says, I've been waiting for you to take my hand. And Reed says, Sue, you mean you feel about me the way I feel about you? And Sue says, I've always felt that way. Perhaps I never realized it till now, but it's always been you. Aww. As we take a leave of the two lovers, we realize that a simple tree can exercise a greater than any of Diablo's portions, a power men called love. And let us all give a aww. That's probably the closest that Reed's going to come to a wedding proposal with this family. Kel's kiss says, "Oh my God, how sweet!" And Ben said, or Snorter Pooper says, "Aw." And Wallace Lang says, "Ah." So, like I said, this is probably the closest that we're going to get to see a proposal between Reed and Sue. And Pop Culture Breakdown is live. All right. Sue. Strange Tales. The Terrible Trio take on Ben and Johnny. Giant Man and Hulk Hulk meets the leader. Giant Man takes on Atuma. And the Sergeant Fury takes on Baron Strucker. And Iron Man and Captain America. FKHC just swinging by to stay high, watching a watch party of Gettysburg. All right, so that is the end of Fantastic Four, issue 35. You've got the X-Men, you've got Thor fighting Hulk. You got the Avengers. And you got Spider-Man. All right. Okay, so that is it. So that is it for FKHC is watching a watch party of Gettysburg. Oh, that's a great movie. That's a great movie. And they're getting ready to have Pickett. All right. So I think, Cal's Kissed is saying, oh, how sweet. And there are weepy emojis. All right. So, okay. So at this point, we shall do, let's see. Let me get some things ready first. Okay. Right, there it is. Okay. All right. Yeah. Snorter Poopers tells FKHC, spoiler, he didn't make it. All right. So now we are at the point in the show known as show notes.
It's time for show notes. It's time for show notes. Yeah, with Mr. Reagan and Sandra too. It's time for show notes. We're bringing it on. It's time for show notes. You've all been warned. It's time for show notes.
All right, first off, let's do the Snorter Poopusgram. Who says, take care of a human, dolphin, doggo, Dalek, ferret, eagle, hedgehog, and Saola. I hope I pronounced that right. TM, a wholly owned subsidiary of the dolphinwars.com. All right, and there is the Saola, courtesy of Snortopupus Cuber. Whoa, that's an interesting critter. Thank you, Snort. Yeah, that's a very interesting critter, the Saola. All right. So, show notes. This Saturday, we will be traveling around the world dolphin style. So everybody who is a member of the panel, all you chatters, all you podmates, please think about the places you've traveled in the world. And if you've got pictures of the places that you've traveled, whether you took them yourself or whether you find them on Wikipedia or other places, please bring those over to the show on Saturday for our themed episode. Okay, a week from today, the week from today will be our 4th annual Veterans Day special. On that day, we will have the post commander of the local American Legion post. They just opened up a brand new building, and they're going to be talking about their concept for the future of the American Legion posts. It will be a Veterans Engagement Center, and we will be talking about that on our special Veterans Day show. On the 19th will be Endgame on Radio King Dolphin TV, read by the Not Ready for Pod Time players. On the 26th, to get your appetite warmed up for Turkey Day, we will have a King Dolphin TV Thanksgiving Eve special. We may even get some, if I can talk her into it, some Cooking with Sandra segment. Huh? And Elise. Yes, Sandra and Elise will do some Cooking with Sandra on the 26th. Just Cuz's will be on Saturdays in November. And that will take us through November. So that is show notes. Snort says, Toykey Boyd. So let me, oh yeah, we got to do the poll. Let's see which one everybody liked. All right. Out of 6 votes, 17% liked Mr. Gideon, but 83% loved Diablo. All right. Nice poll. All right. Let's see if I can. Okay. So that's the result of our poll for tonight. Okay. So that is it for show notes. And now let's let me say goodnight to all our amazing people that was here tonight. Okay, let's start. All right, we had the amazing Kel's Kiss. Thank you for being here, ma'am. I'm glad you can make it, and I hope you like these reviews. And if so, come back again. We had the great of the fantastic Phantom Outsider. We had the incredible Mr. Wallace Lang. And now my amazing lifeguard corps, starting with the wonderful producer, Sandra. Okay. We have the meme master extraordinaire, FKHC 2005. We had the intuitive Legatus Legionii. And finally, last but definitely not least, you don't make him least because he will hug you. And I can take it from a personal account that those who get hugged by a snorter poopus don't usually survive. And it usually is not pretty. So the biggest, baddest bear on the internet is Snorter Poopus! Q-bar dot stream. Hashtag clobber. Yep. Oh, that's a handsome bear. And he says, ah. And Kel's Kiss says, happy I could join and see my first ever comic book. It was a fun night. Well, thank you, Kel's Kiss. I am so glad you enjoyed it. And there are many more to come because I have a big collection of Fantastic Four books. And Sandra says, please come back again. Yes, please. All right. If you like this, you may like the Radio King Dolphin TV. And of course, next week's special Veterans Day episode. So, yes, we got a lot of good things coming up for King Dolphin TV. So, everybody, you have a great rest of the week. I love you all. Be safe. Stay warm. And we will see you on Saturday for Just 'Cause. The World Traveler session. Take care, guys. Love you all.